Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So I just finished reading The Lincoln Highway by Mirth, and I can't talk too much about the book because it is a finalist for the BookTube Prize, and even though the ballots are being submitted and being tallied probably as we speak, we'll get there, but I can't discuss it yet. But I did want to say, in this book, we get a little bit of the presentation of how similar the hero's story is. How a lot of the themes that come out in that epic saga that we see in literature, how similar it can be from story to story. What are some of the themes that get repeated, and kind of where they originally came from and how we can see them manifested in our lives as we pursue our own dreams and goals, but also how it helps us to hearken back to what other people have done as they have encountered difficulty and challenge, and how other people have processed that whole coming of age period in their lives. So reading that made me think about literature and the hero with 1,000 faces. And I keep mentioning that title. I think I talked about it in my wrap up. The Hero with 1,000 Faces is a book by Joseph Campbell, which my copy is somewhere that I can't figure out right now, because even though the shelves are tidy, they're still not necessarily organized. So we will get to that. But like I'm saying, reading that book made me think about literature and the themes in literature. And it made me think of a video that I watched recently. Steve Donahue made this list of 12 more classics that you absolutely should read. And, I didn't post a video for Book List Thursday this week because I was elbow deep in reading and finishing up things for the BookTube Prize that I was judging. So I thought I'd make a little bit of a belated video with Book List. In any case, this is not quite a response. I'm just mentioning the list that Steve Donahue gave and telling you how I did with that list, and maybe challenging you to see how many of those books you've read, because I think it's a really good list. We can't read all the classics, although I'm probably trying to. Can't read all the classics. So it's nice sometimes when other people who have read a lot of those classics can curate that list and tell you which are some of the ones that you absolutely should read first. So here's the list as Steve Donahue presented it. 12 classics you absolutely must read. And the first is a book that I don't think I've ever really heard of, but I feel like I should track it down. It is The 12 Caesars by Suetonius. And no, I don't think I've ever seen this presentation of Julius Caesar's story. So yeah, The 12 Caesars by Suetonius is his first title, and no, I haven't read it. Jason and the Argonauts, however, is a book that is mentioned in this one because Mirth talks a little bit about a lot of the heroes, the classical heroes from mythology and literature. And Jason and the Argonauts is a story that I have heard referred to many times, but I've never read it. So it's definitely on my TBR now. Unofficially, but it is it's by Apollonius of Rhodes, Penguin classic. Have you read it? I haven't. Then The Tale of Genji is one that I'm hoping to get to at some point. It's big. I didn't put it on my TBR for 2022, so maybe 2023 I'll get to it, but definitely want to read The Tale of Genji. Have you read it? Next is Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, another book, another collection, a story collection that I would like to get to sometime soon. There are a lot of books that I have to go through before I can get to the next level, and I think that's a second tier book for me. So no, didn't get to Chaucer's Canterbury Tales yet, but I will. The Prince, Machiavelli's The Prince, I read a few years ago. Can't remember now why I read it. It was some kind of a challenge here on BookTube, and I read it. I think it was right around the time I had just had my daughter, and a lot of that story kind of washed over me. So I'm gonna reread it, and I'll tell you about it then. But I will say I have read it. There's a copy somewhere over there. And number 6 on his list is Hamlet, William Shakespeare's Hamlet, which I read recently and absolutely love. Have it on my list to reread. Maybe this is a book that I'll reread every year because it's short. I have this Folger Shakespeare edition, and I love that it has the notes and the explanations on the pages, before the text. And there's some quotes in here that are quotes that you hear in life, in speeches all the time, and I never knew that this is where they came from until I read the book. So it's a book that it's a play that I want to reread, maybe a little bit more slowly next time, and write some entries down in my commonplace book, which I don't have a commonplace book right now. I'm not keeping one right now. There's my reading journal, but we'll talk about that another time. But Hamlet is a book that I want to reread and write some stuff down about. So yeah, I will get back to that again, but I have read it. Then number 7 is Pride and Prejudice, Jane Eyre. And I like what Steve said about Pride and Prejudice, that it's a story that feels familiar when you're reading it, and you may think, okay, what's the hype? What's the reason that this book is so lauded? It is precisely because it is so familiar. Because when Jane Austen wrote this book, there weren't a lot of books that had that theme or had those themes. She popularized something, and it's unfair after we've had, a few centuries of exposure to the books that have been inspired by her, that we would say that her book is maybe a little bit trite. It's not. It is the book that started the revolution, I suppose. Pride and Prejudice. I've read it. I've enjoyed it. It's a book that I want to get back to again. I have a plan to reread all of Jane Austen's books someday, but I'm not there yet. That is probably level 4. Level 1 is me catching up on some of the classics that I haven't yet. Level 2 is me getting to the more complex, maybe a little bit more of the obscure titles. Level 3 is refining that list, getting to the place where a lot of the titles that could be mentioned, I have gone through and I can say that I've read. And then level 4 is rereading things. So we still at level 1, guys. Number 8 on the list. Number 8 is a book that I'm going to be reading in October, hopefully. Middlemarch by George Eliot, which Steve does say is wonderful, and I've heard some good things. When I mentioned that I'm going to be reading it soon, Britta said she hopes that I get on with it. I think that means that she loved it, and hearing Steve talk about it and talk about it so highly that he's put it in his list makes me a little excited to be reading Middlemarch in October. So excited for that. Then The House of Mirth, Edith Wharton's House of Mirth. I haven't read. I've read Age of Innocence by her, and definitely want to read more from Edith Wharton. So Edith Wharton also wrote Ethan Frome. Am I correct with that? But yeah, I'd like to read House of Mirth is what I'm saying. And then A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf is one of those books that I think everyone has to read to understand the plight of women in previous generations, and even the plight of women today, women who want to be everything that they want to explore the full range of their potential, but needing space and time, physically and figuratively, in order to pursue those passions and those potentials. And this book, every time I read it, it gives me all the feels, it gives me all the inspirations, it makes me want to do a lot of things. But yeah, Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own is on that list, which I have read. Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, is one that I think I should probably read more often. I have read it. I've been moved by Frederick Douglass's story and his accomplishment, considering where he started, and but just the time that he lived in, and what he was able to overcome, and what he was able to do with opportunities that didn't come easily, but that he forged for himself. Moving, motivating, inspiring. It's a book that I think should definitely be on this list, maybe even higher up. I don't know that these books are ranked, but yeah, definitely belongs on this list. And one that I've never read, the Makioka Sisters, Tanizaki's Makioka Sisters, I haven't read. So yeah, of this list, 12 books, I have read, I think 4 of them. So let me know in the comments down below if you have read these books, if you agree that these are the 12 books that you absolutely should start with if you're maybe going to classics for the first time. Steve did allude to an earlier video by someone else where he agreed that there are other books. Of course, there are lots of books. But if you can choose a place to start, this is as good a place as any. So yeah, just echoing, sharing Steve's list with you, and want to know if you've read these books and what you think. And if there's one more book that you would add, lucky number 13, if there's one more book that you would add to this list, what is it? If I was going to add a title to this list, I'd have to stay on brand and add The Wonderful Adventures of Mary Seacole in Many Lands. Mary Seacole was a Jamaican woman. She worked as a nurse in the 1800s, served during the Crimean War, and I've been hearing about Mary Seacole my whole life. So even though I haven't yet read the book, I think her story is probably one that is going to be inspiring. So yeah, I'm adding that to the list. Adding a Caribbean title. So yeah, that's my list and my bonus. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let's chat in the comments. Love to hear what your addition to the list would be. Of course, if you agree with this list to begin with, and what you would add to it. So yeah, until we come back for another video, happy reading. Bye.